the Force is with me, I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me. So be it, Jedi.
Hello, everybody. It's Thursday night. And we're back at this Geek News Now Cantina Happy Hour. We're glad you're here. We're glad you joined us. Big show tonight. We have the Kenobi series finale, is what they're calling it. Series finale. I'm hoping it's just the season finale and we get another one. So, I'm your host, David, as we traverse through this galaxy of ours. With me, of course, as always, is Debbie. Hi, Debbie. How's it going?
Hello there.
Hello there.
I am doing fine. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Very cool. Very cool. And also with us today is Cam. How are you, Cam?
I've definitely felt better, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk.
Yes. And because Cam does not feel well, he is not going to show himself. So we get a little smiley face thing. And also with us today is Kevin. Now, Kevin, before I let you talk here, Kevin is one of our GNN greats. He's part of our Facebook page, the GNN greats, and he's on our show. And look, that can be you too. You can be on the show. Just message the GNN greats. Say, hey, I want to be on the show. I'll get you on there. I'll figure out a way. Kevin, how are you?
I am great. I'm really excited about the idea of being on a podcast or on a YouTube show. I've not really done it before, so I figured it'd be something that'd be pretty cool to get a chance to chat with everybody. I mean, Star Wars is a huge part of my life and what I'm doing all the time. Just following either collecting things or the shows that are on, the movies, and just constantly on message boards, things like that. So it's exciting to get a chance to talk to likewise minded people.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so I gotta ask. I want to know what your favorite movie is, what your favorite character is, and your favorite piece of music. Go.
Piece of music.
And this can encompass all of the TV shows, the movies, everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that, the obvious answer for the favorite movie is Empire Strikes Back. I mean, I think that's a lot of people would say that that's their favorite. I find that is the one that really kind of ties a lot of stuff together. So I find myself watching that one probably as much as anything. And as far as favorite character, I mean, he's my wingman. Back here. Chewbacca has always been the guy. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm a tall guy. I always kind of related to the big, tall, silent type. Yeah, he's always been a favorite. I've collected, tons of stuff with him on it and everything else too. So, always been a big fan there. As far as the music, man, how did you go wrong when it comes to the music in Star Wars? I mean,
all of it.
I don't know that I have a favorite.
That's the answer we're looking for. Is all of it.
Yeah, seriously.
All of it.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, you could go to any piece really in the original trilogy. I think the one that I think of when I think of Star Wars as much as anything nowadays, though, is the Duel of the Fates one. I mean, it's how do you not think of Star Wars if you hear something like that? But all the original trilogy stuff is crazy. It's good.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're ready to discuss Kenobi. Before I discuss Kenobi, I want to say one thing. I got to go to Fan Expo this past weekend. If you watch MCU Mondays, I talked about it a little bit there. But I got to do a one-on-one interview with Matt Lanter. Got to chat with James Arnold Taylor. So I got to talk to both Anakin and Obi-Wan over the weekend. And it was just the whole thing was amazing. The panels that we went to, Katie Sackhoff was there. We went to her panel. Mining When we missed hers, but I saw Ashley Eckstein's panel, which was really good. And then, of course, they did a Clone Wars panel, which was James and Matt and Ashley, which was just when James Arnold Taylor walks out onto the stage and says, "Hello there," you're just goosebumps. Anyway, speaking of hello there, let's jump right into Kenobi. So this was not a 90-minute romp like all the rumors had said.
Yeah, I don't know where people got that. I think maybe they got it from, because I know it released in movie theaters, select movie theaters,
The finale did?
and in select movie theaters, yes.
Wow, I didn't even know
And
that.
I didn't know that either.
I think they were basing, because I think they showed all the episodes, including the finale. I think, correct
Yeah, I
me
was
if
going to
I'm
say
wrong.
that. I think it was the full season they
It was a
showed.
full
Yeah,
series.
and I think they were taking the time that was set in the theater and then kind of subtracting what each episode was and thinking this was going to be 90 minutes. I believe there was also a question and answer thing. So I don't know if people didn't include that time that might have been tacked on to the end of the series or the end of the episode or what. But yeah, I thought it was strange when people were saying this was going to be 90 minutes because I was like, Disney doesn't do that.
That's a
I
movie
mean, I
in
wouldn't have
itself.
been upset, but yeah.
Wishful thinking, maybe.
Yeah.
I again, wishful thinking, yes, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they didn't. That they used the proper amount of time. This is like The Mandalorian all over again. Oh, why are those episodes only like 37 minutes long or 38 minutes long? And it's like, because there's no filler there. They are using the time allotted or the time that they need to tell the story that they need without saying, okay, well, we got to fill 55 minutes plus commercial time kind of thing. They needed to tell a story, and they told it in, I think 50 minutes was this one.
51.
Was it 51?
51.
So again, they told the story that they needed to tell in the time they needed to tell it. But also in this one, we got Debbie. I think you called it. I think you called something about another final duel or a final duel between
Obi-Wan and Vader.
Obi-Wan and Vader.
And it was glorious. I mean, oh, and I just messed up my hair.
It was honestly, it was so much fun. I mean, it's just amazing. I thought it was great. The movement, the saber duels. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for it. When we saw the smaller duel where Obi-Wan gets raked across the coals a bit, you had to assume that, I was with you there. I had to assume that they were going to come with something bigger when they were talking about the duel of the century. There's going to be something coming up, and that was when they introduced the whole show in the first place. You had to expect that something was coming, and so yeah, when they finally did have the duel, I mean, and we're not doing spoilers here, are we? Are we worried about spoilers at all?
Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched the
Yeah.
finale,
Yeah.
stop watching this show right now. We're
Right,
about to
Get out of here.
That's what I was going to
watch
say.
us
I was
later.
yeah, when you get the chance to see a little bit of Anakin under the helmet, I mean, that's what speechless.
And
That was what it was.
And I think what added to it, because I think that happened in Rebels. And I think it
Yes.
also happened too
Ahsoka.
in the Force Unleashed, in the first Force Unleashed game, to where he got his helmet damaged like that, and you saw part of the face sticking through the Vader mask. So
I have the action figure to prove it.
I was gonna say I got a Lego figure somewhere around here that's him with a split mask. So I mean, that's one of those things where everything kind of ties together, and it's like, okay, Vader's not invincible. As much as we would like to say that he is, he's not, and he can be beaten. So, but you mentioned that with the thing, and they used this to really close up one of the, I don't want to call it a plot hole, but if you remember in A New Hope, he says a young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, betrayed and murdered your father. And then again in Jedi, he says, from a certain point of view, because the good man who was your father, and I want to know your thoughts on this, so I'm going to let you talk here in a minute. when he told Obi-Wan, he said, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. I killed Anakin Skywalker." To me, and this is the way I was seeing it, was that throughout this whole series, Obi-Wan has just been completely dejected and downtrodden, and it's all stemmed from the fact that he was sure that he had killed Anakin. And even when he knew that Anakin was still alive as Vader, he was still sure, I killed Anakin. I killed Anakin. And then when Vader said that, he said, I killed Anakin Skywalker. To me, that was Kenobi was justified. And he was like, okay, I know I didn't kill him now. It wasn't my fault. So, all that being said, and it fixed the lie that Kenobi told Luke in A New Hope. Thoughts?
I never looked at it as a lie. Like you said, it's from a certain point of view. He wasn't lying. I mean, and even before this series, he wasn't lying. It was always Anakin made that choice. This whole series has been about choices. Anakin made that choice to become Vader. And it wasn't because of anything Ben did. He made that choice. He's living with the consequences.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there, it was when you watched the movies originally, you didn't really have any context for what was being said. Kind of like when he mentioned, your father fought with me in the Clone Wars kind of thing. You didn't know what the Clone Wars were. Well, now that we have a general idea what that is, that line makes more sense. And now they've kind of filled in one more piece. They say, well, he was given his point of view, but they're saying, well, it wasn't just a point of view. It was his experience that shows him what was happening and how Anakin had really taken that final step on his own. Just that was something that really, I don't know that they have to plug in those holes when it comes to some of these shows, but it does kind of give you that that's the thing.
It makes more sense now.
And he walks away and calls him Darth. I mean,
which was perfect because he calls him Darth.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and it follows the theme of somebody who's turned to the dark side, essentially destroying their former identity. We saw the same thing with Kylo Ren. He was weak and foolish like his father, so I destroyed him. We saw the same thing in the Darth Bane trilogy, where Bane actively did everything he could to stamp out his former identity to the point of where he barely even remembered the person he was before. Right. So it's interesting. It's whenever you turn to the dark side, I mean, it's not just like, oh, you turn evil. It's more like such a radical shifting of perspective that suddenly it becomes all you've ever known. And I just find that to be a very interesting idea.
Is this where we say it's poetry?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
And in his own way, Ben was still trying to protect Luke, because can you imagine the devastation that before he finds out the truth, if Ben had told him early on, how devastating that would have been to Luke.
Yeah. Well, Luke, he's still trying to protect Luke. He's also, he's still protecting Leia. I mean, the whole thing with him, I'm going to leave and, we've got everybody shooting at us, but when I leave, you got what is it? The Jonah syndrome, I guess we can call it. You had Jonah and he was running away and they said, big storm, throw me into the lake and everything will be fine. And they did, and he got eaten by a big fish. So Obi-Wan was, hey, I'll just jump over here and he'll leave you alone and y'all can get away. So anyway, all that aside, I thought it was amazing. I also noticed, and I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but the scene where the Star Destroyer is chasing the ship, I'm gonna have to go back and watch, but I am like 99.9% certain that matte painting of that Star Destroyer was from The Empire Strikes Back.
That's what I was thinking too. That was like one of the first things I noticed about that shot. I was like, that looks really familiar.
That's like spot on. I mean, even the way the ship was flying, because that's the way the Millennium Falcon flew in front of the thing. It was like, holy smokes, they stole that one. But I mean, they didn't steal it.
And the music.
Yeah, the music's always good.
Well, I mean, we haven't really heard any Star Wars music throughout this whole series until the the first scene that was I don't know if it's from New Hope or Empire, but the chase scene or whatever, that music was the same music, done a little bit differently, but it's the same music. And then we get Leia's theme and the Force theme there at the end, which that the second half of the show, I just cried. I've watched this episode probably about 5 or 6 times now, and
since yesterday, holy smokes!
Yeah, and each time I cry. It's just emotional.
It dealt a lot more with Luke this time too, and you know, this whole series has been focused on Leia, which I haven't had a problem with, because the movies focused on Luke. The movies were all about Luke, and now we're kind of looking at Leia and looking at her childhood, and now we get to delve into Luke and his childhood, as far as, you know, him with Owen and him with Beru, and obviously, being that Owen knows who Luke is, you know, there's escape plans in place.
And can I say, Beru's a badass.
Yeah.
She had
that was fun, right?
Everywhere.
I'm just glad they finally gave her something to do.
I was like, you go, girl.
Yeah, that was fun to see them fighting back a little bit, since you didn't get a chance to see any of that before. Now we finally get a chance to see Owen and Beru.
Other than I think she had one line in episode 2.
It was hello.
All the movies, hello.
Oh.
Not hello there.
Oh, we did get our hello there, though. I'm sure we all caught that. It was beautiful and glorious, and it was to Luke. I'm going to assume that he gave the T-16 Skyhopper to Luke at that point too. It was emotional too, in the fact that Owen said, you know, he was able to open up a little bit and say, hey, you can go and meet him. Go at least just go say hi, so he kind of knows who you are.
And I think that was perfect, right? When they gave Obi-Wan the chance to see Luke, he got that chance to see Leia on Alderaan. You know, I mean, the idea that you mentioned with little Leia, I mean, how great was she in this show? But just the idea of him being able to have a little bit of that closure, and you know, I just like the whole arc of what Obi-Wan, what it brought from Ewan McGregor all the way through, and you know, just at the ending there, you talk about crying about it. I think, yeah, you get little tears in your eyes thinking about the fact that, you know, you always kind of hoped that Obi-Wan would have gotten a little bit of something. You know, so he wasn't just sitting there in the desert the whole time, just being sad. You know,
yeah,
he got a little something.
Okay, so the third sister. Now, for those that haven't seen it and don't care about spoilers, the third sister goes on a hunt for Luke Skywalker. She goes looking for him because she wants to kill him. She catches up to him, but we get a redemption story from her. Now, I want to know thoughts, one, on the redemption, but two, is this going to be a character that we see in future projects?
Well, as far as her, well, as far as her, you know, redemption arc, I feel like it was kind of rushed in a way. The way her character took a turn by the end of episode 5 seemed a little jarring. But I think the way that they presented it in the end, it felt a bit more organic than I was expecting, and I appreciated that they tied her redemption arc into what traumatized her so much in the first place. So that I felt was quite well done. And you know, Moses Ingram, I mean, she's a really good actor. You know, but by the end of it, you know, whenever she was like, you know, sobbing in the sand next to Obi-Wan, I thought that was really, really good.
So
Yeah,
we
I
see
had
her.
kind of called redemption arc for Reva early on. I'm thinking, that they made her such a big part of it. They're going to do something along those lines, I felt. But yeah, I agree that it was a little rushed, but you could see the parallel there. Her seeing herself being the Vader going after the child when she was a child and Vader was coming after her. I mean, you could see that whole thing. And just the idea, like, think about Luke with his father. He kind of snapped out of it when he cut his father's hand off there in Return of the Jedi. You kind of
Yeah.
see her kind of snapping out of it. Just like, okay, that was not right at all, and I'm becoming the thing that I hate. And I like the way they did that with her.
Yeah, I like what you just said there. She looked at it, and that was exactly what Cam said. Just not using those words was, she saw we saw the flashback of her and Anakin approaching her, and the whole reason she was doing this was I think she said justice. This is justice, and it was basically I'm getting revenge on Anakin for what he put me through and what he did to me. And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, I have become the thing that I hate. Like you said, it was very cool.
I don't necessarily think it was revenge on Vader because Vader has no idea about Luke. What it was revenge on Obi-Wan. He was the one watching over Luke. He was the one that left her there to be defeated by Vader. And basically, I mean, she kind of blamed him. Why didn't you come back? Where were you, when she was a youngling? So I don't think it was revenge on Vader. Vader had no idea about Luke. This was all about Obi-Wan.
And Stephanie says, for Reva, I appreciated where she ended up, but it seemed like a few more dots needed to be connected on her journey.
I kind of agree with that.
I kind of agree with that too, but I'm also looking at it where this is possibly one of those things where it's going to be like, okay, we're going to put her in. We always had planned for her to be in future things, whether she's in the Mandalorian or, which is feasible. Sure, why not? She'd just be
Yeah,
cool.
I kind of found it interesting what you said, Debbie, because now I'm thinking about it, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, she initially held some resentment for Obi-Wan for not coming back for her at the Jedi Temple, and then at the end of Episode 5, he's like, well, we can face him together, we'll take him down together, and then it's like, oh, no, bye-bye, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Leaving her alone again with Vader, so, I mean, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yes.
And also, let's see if I can remember my train of thought here. Well, it's out the door. I'll think of it later. Carry on.
Okay.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
It'll come back to me.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I think Luke had called it too. Luke is my son, Kevin. By the way, if you haven't caught that yet, but
yeah.
I think he caught it too, to where we were watching the first couple episodes, and he looked at her and he said, "Well, she's gonna die or she's gonna be redeemed," and he said, "But I'm leaning toward redeemed," and I was like, well, that would be about right. That sounds Star Warsy. He's redeemed. Everybody's redeemable.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be the Star Wars thing, where if you show a character's past trauma, if you show an evil character's past trauma, they're going to get redeemed. But then someone like the Grand Inquisitor, you didn't know very much about him. He didn't get some kind of tragic backstory or nothing like that, so obviously he wasn't going to be redeemed.
Right. And how did she survive? I'm still trying to figure this one out.
Pure hate.
No, you can't.
Yes.
No.
He stabbed the wrong stomach.
Yeah. See, that's one of those tropes that they've kind of followed through with on the no one seems to die. But yeah, I don't know if
the
you
thing
really can
is,
explain it beyond that. Yeah.
I mean, Anakin should have died too. I mean, right then and there. How the hell? His hatred for Obi-Wan, for one. I mean, yeah, Palpy came back and rescued him and that, but if that would have been any other normal person with your arm and both legs cut off and practically 100% of your body's been burnt.
You're toasted, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have lasted that long. It was his hatred. And of course, then you got Palpy, who got thrown down the reactor shaft. Of course, he's always got something up his sleeve. I mean, he survived somehow.
Well, I mean, he had a clone body, you know, in the unknown regions, and he transferred his spirit to it. That's how he survived.
That's what was the Brendan Fraser movie George of the Jungle? People don't die in these movies. They just get really bad boo-boos.
Yeah.
Hi Grant, how's it going? Just finished Kenobi, fantastic. I killed Anakin. I am Spartacus. No, I am Spartacus. I killed Anakin. We all killed Anakin, son. Let's see. What was the quote from the Inquisitor? Revenge being a good motivation. But I still could have used more story there, more time spent on her being a bad guy than her recovery, for better or worse.
Well, she wasn't exactly recovered. I mean, when she was the very opening scene there on Tatooine, I mean, she looked rough and she was struggling. So it's not like she made a complete recovery.
I think she was
still
struggling in a way. I think
Huh?
I think she still had her injury too.
Oh yeah, I mean, she had that.
We saw, you know, when she was fighting Owen, we saw him kind of tickle her stab wound a bit.
Oh,
and
that's right.
So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, she was just living on pure hatred.
So when that hatred went away, when she changed, when she redeemed, did she die?
Oh, you know, she faded away to become a Force spirit, just like everybody else who gets a redemption arc.
I'm sorry. She didn't die. She became one with the Force.
Yeah.
Obi probably took her to the nearest, whatever they call a hospital there on Tatooine. Or maybe the mod shop.
We saw that in Book of Boba Fett. So sure, why not?
Right. Who knows?
So now everyone has the mechanical stomachs.
Well, she has
out.
She has a mechanical stomach, and she walks around now saying, "I owe my life to Obi-Wan Kenobi." And they'll meet up with Boba Fett later on, and you'll have Fennec Shand, and it's all aesthetic.
I think if I mean, there's been rumors, yeah, nothing official from Disney, and that might come in September when they have their D23 thing. But there has been rumors of her getting her own series. Of course, there's rumors of Kenobi getting a second season. Either way, I could see. I don't know if I want a whole series on her, but if they have a second series season of Kenobi, I could see her becoming part of the path. You know, helping.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe Kenobi coming in and helping here and there. I mean, I don't think she would be a central part of the story, but maybe that's what she decided to do with her life. You know,
maybe she'll be somebody that we encounter in the next Jedi Fallen Order game.
And there's rumors of that becoming a series. Well, not Cal Kestis.
I saw that Cal Kestis is
just like there were rumors of this episode being over an hour long.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure we'll find out in D23 in September. So,
I mean, there are rumors of Ryan Johnson still working on a trilogy too. So who knows?
Taki Watiti, or however you pronounce
it. Taika's got something coming.
That I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward.
Everybody's got one coming.
Okay, this one's a big comment, so if I cover you up, Kevin, I apologize.
No.
Let's see. It says, I know the scene with the helmet getting blown open was already done in Rebels, but Ewan McGregor's acting made that worth repeating. Absolutely heartbreaking when you see Obi-Wan smile for that split second and say Anakin, only to realize that his friend wasn't coming back, was gut-wrenching. I think I actually cried.
I did cry. I'll admit it. But ask my kids, anything emotional, I cry over it, so...
Make Reva like a kung fu style show. Just wander the world and help people. Grant says, didn't see that coming. Then to see Hayden revealed was awesome. Obi-Wan got the nudge. He needed the full Force regained.
Yeah, that helmet scene, I mean, that was talk about emotional damage. At least for me, because it was so heartbreaking. Well, first I thought that was great special effects or whatever they did, because you could see him slice into the helmet and you could just see it sparking or whatever, after embers or whatever.
Like he had split a mechanical object of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, that was cool. But then when you see Anakin's face, and I think it threw Obi-Wan off guard, because for a while now he's just seen him as Vader.
Yeah.
And then he actually sees his friend again, his brother. And then with them modulating or combining Anakin and James Earl Jones' voice. And the lightsaber, goes from red to blue. Whenever he's talking as Anakin, you can see the blue, his eyes going from normal to Sith, depending on what personality is talking, I guess you could say. Yeah, that was okay.
I actually heard something interesting yesterday. Actually, I heard that it's not actually James Earl Jones.
It's a computer program.
Yeah, that they did the same thing with him that they did with Luke in Book of Boba Fett, where that through digital magic they modulated his voice to sound like Luke. So unfortunately, I don't think it's actually James Earl Jones this time.
Actually,
it is James Earl Jones. They took his words. Yeah, they took his words from other movies, and because he's credited in the credits. Credited,
yeah. So,
yeah, that was the one thing I struck me immediately was the voice. I mean, they sort of did that in Rebels, with Matt Lanter and the voice coming out of the helmet with Ahsoka and that whole thing. And I remember watching that and just being, stunned by this, and then have this actually be Hayden Christensen, and hearing James Earl Jones, and that part. I mean, I was just it was stuck in my tracks, like, oh. And that was just, like you said, it's heart-wrenching watching the interaction. And throughout the whole show, you just watch Ewan and his reactions to things. You can see just in his face. You don't even have to have the volume on. Just see in his face where he's going from just being completely in despair to the end where he's able to, hello there, and he's ready to go. I mean, they completely recharged him, and that was awesome. And the last part there with Anakin and the voice and them having that little face off, I think that finally just put a little stamp on it. It's like nothing else I could do.
Well, watching Ewan's face, I mean, when he's apologizing or saying, "I'm sorry, Anakin, I'm sorry for all of it." I mean, his voice cracks. You could see the tears in his eyes, and I was just like, "Ah, damn it."
No crying. There's no crying on this
crying
show.
on Star Wars. But yeah, that was heart-wrenching. And Stephanie said something about the deranged smile. And I believe she's talking about Anakin when he says,
Anakin,
I killed Anakin, because you could just see that little smirk, Hayden
has that.
Great stuff.
I think what hits home about the scene as well is that we can all say that we have had the moment where we've run into a friend that just isn't the same person anymore.
The thing is, I don't know if Anakin did this on purpose, but he pretty much gave Obi-Wan absolution.
Yeah, because he said, "Hey, you didn't do it. Don't worry about it. I did it."
And I think that was the turning point for him, saying, like you said earlier, okay, this wasn't my fault, and he made the choice. It wasn't me. So his guilt out the door.
Gone. So we got there was parts of this lightsaber duel that I was excited to see, because when we had the duels in Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, New Hope, those were all very, they were slower duels. They were duels to me to where it was like, okay, Vader is older, Luke is a young Jedi. We're still trying to figure things out. Then you get to Phantom Menace, and you're like, okay, these are trained Jedi now. You get the Duel of the Fates, and that was just amazing. Everybody's jumping around and lightsabers everywhere. But this one, when you had them duking it out and then using the Force against each other, that was the big thing. They're throwing rocks at each other and Force pushing and everything else. And when he collapsed all of that stuff on top of Obi-Wan, I honestly, I turned around to Luke and it was like, he's going to say the high ground line. He's going to say the high ground. I have the high ground now. Ha ha ha. No. I got gypped. Anyway. Excited.
No. Go ahead.
To be
Cam.
honest, oh sorry. Well, I was just gonna say. I know that I got to kind of get used to being the dissenter in these conversations at times, but that the duel was exciting. I kind of just wish that it was less chaotic camera work. It kind of made it a little bit hard to appreciate the choreography at times. I don't know. I don't know if you guys kind of noticed that too, but it kind of jumped around a bit too much shaky cam. At times, I couldn't really tell. Like it a lot of the power of the choreography was lost for me in that sense.
The dark sometimes is difficult when it's so dark in some of those areas and they're so close up. I think I know what you're talking about.
But and I'll say this, I there's some instances where I like it like that. One, it shows off the movement of the lightsabers, and you get the red and the blue. Yeah. You get the different lights. But two, and this is something that dates back to maybe the second Matrix movie, to where you had, the first Matrix movie, you had everything was practical. Everybody was on wires and it was wire fighting and all this other stuff. And then you had the second one to where you were watching the show and you could say, he just turned into a cartoon. Okay, now he's back to Keanu Reeves. Oh, now he's a cartoon again. You could tell where the digital influence took over. And when you go dark like this, I think it makes it easier for them to say, okay, we're going to do a digital part right here, but nobody's going to notice because it won't be as noticeable because it is so dark. And I think that, to me, that adds to it because, yes, there's a lot of practical effects used, but yeah, we're in a day and age of computers, so you get those special computer generated effects.
Yeah.
So the dark takes away from I can see where it turned to computer and then I can see where it turned back. So
Yeah, I really like the way Obi practically went into God mode. I mean, with the raising all the rocks or boulders, whatever they were. And
he really was Space Jesus at that point.
Yes. And the move that shocked me is when he took the butt of his lightsaber and went after that control box. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And again, sparks flying.
Yeah. And he changed fighting styles at least 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times, yeah.
I mean, he did his. I seen him do Anakin's move where he twirls the lightsaber behind his back, and then he went into a more aggressive. I don't know the lightsaber forms. I know there are some, like 6 or 7, but yeah, he was changing forms all over the place. I mean, he was just going all out.
And that's what made it amazing. It was amazing. Now, I want to talk a little bit right now, and I know, Debbie, you probably have this in your notes, and you're probably looking forward to this. I want to talk about, and again, spoilers. If you haven't watched it, go away and come back and watch us later. There were two cameos, 2 really big cameos in this show. And I want to talk about both of them because they were both of them amazing. And I think, Debbie, you actually called one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I called everything on this show. Well, everything I wanted to see. I think all my boxes were checked off.
There you go. We got
one that I wasn't even expecting. So, woo-hoo.
Oh, was that so in case you haven't, if you haven't watched it and you don't care about spoilers, we had Liam Neeson come back. It's Qui-Gon Jinn Force goes to Force.
Tears.
Force goes to Force. And honestly, when it happened and he saw him in the distance, I was like, oh, they did put it in. Because I was getting kind of worried. I was like, are they going to work him into this? How is this going to work? Yeah, there. Yes, I see him. I know. Yes, we had Ian McDermott back as the Emperor. Yes, it was only in hologram.
I wasn't expecting that one at all. I was
not
just like,
expecting
oh
that one at all.
shit.
I said, "Ooh, they got Ian McDermott back too. Oh, that's very cool."
Yeah, I kind of had to do a double take at first. I was like, wait a minute, is that really him?
No, it's computer generated.
Well, no, just at first I didn't see Ian McDermott. I like at first, maybe it was like the quality of the hologram, or maybe just the quality of the stream. But I was like, that just looks like somebody who's cosplaying Ian McDermott. But then like
that's that guy from TikTok. He does this all the time.
Exactly. But then like what do I keep on telling you guys? It keeps on coming back to the movement of the mouth, and I was like, oh my god, that's Ian McDermott.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think they tried to make him look more like, Return of the Jedi type Ian McDermott,
Thank God.
a little further along, because I think we're so used to seeing the more recent stuff, but they made him look more like that. So yeah, I think that was one that I don't think
back to
very many
tank.
people were expecting. Yeah.
I always looked at it as, well, he had just freshly been hurt, and by Return of the Jedi, the swelling's gone down. Just my thought. Swelling's gone down. He's not quite as lumpy.
He took plenty of ibuprofen.
Yeah, that's right. 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. Drink lots of water. He'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah, well, and in that scene, we finally got the Imperial March. I don't think we've heard it at all during the series, have we?
No.
I don't think so.
No, this was the first time.
The closest would have been at the Inquisitor Castle, I think, or maybe the first time at Vader's Castle, but it wasn't. It was like it started and you're expecting, nope, you're fooling me.
And I like that scene in which I assume is his throne room, the conversation with him and Palpy, Palpy's like, a little bit concerned. You seemed, as usual, tunnel vision on Obi-Wan. And I forget what Palpy said, but it made Vader kind of sit up straight, and think, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Well, yeah, he said the same thing to him that he said in Return of the Jedi. He says, I wonder if your feelings on this matter are clear, Lord Vader.
Mm-hmm. That's what he said. But after that, and then they pan out and they start playing the Imperial, the Imperial March. But that throne room, if you remember Revenge of the Sith, when the mask is coming down and you see the inside of that mask, his throne room looks like the inside of his mask.
Yeah.
If you look at it when it's panning out, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Palpy's like, you good, bro? Oh, hi, Stephanie. I haven't said hi to you.
That's my daughter.
I know. I
was telling Kevin, in case he didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and with the Qui-Gon stuff too in there, I know you mentioned the two cameos there. I just wanted to throw out there that before the series started, I kind of had this in my head that we were going to get more than one small piece of Qui-Gon Jinn in this, because he's such a big part of how Obi-Wan developed. And so, in my head, when I finally saw it, it was like, oh, that was like the piece that I felt was missing for me. And I kind of wanted to see the Mort calling Orson at the end of every episode, see the, the Qui-Gon Jinn pop in there and giving wisdom to Obi-Wan or something like that,
And
but that was,
too, I didn't think it, I thought if anything, it's just going to be a voice. He will hear a voice in his head and it'll be Liam Neeson's voice. And, oh, well, yeah, they did something. But to have him actually physically in it was just...
Yeah, they packed a lot of stuff that I felt was kind of missing in the last episode, like the Emperor and Qui-Gon, and some of the closure he got with actually seeing young Luke and just talk to him and some of that stuff. There's a lot of things that I wanted to see that they shoved in that last episode pretty quick. So.
Yes. Actually, funny you should mention that, Stephanie. I don't know if you caught the first of the show, but I did get to talk to Matt Lanter and James Arnold Taylor at Fan Expo this weekend, and one of the I asked Matt. I said, so because Matt did a cameo in
Mandalorian
season 2 of Mandalorian, I believe. And
Right.
so I asked him, I'm like, so what do we need to do to get you and James as a cameo in Kenobi season 2? I mean, both of you together, you and James Arnold Taylor. So we have Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we have the other Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I mean, even if it's just a scene where they walk past you on the street or something like that, what do we need to do? And he said, first off, do we even know Kenobi season 2 is happening? Well, there's rumors, but
that's not the question, Matt.
if you want the full question, I will have the article up tomorrow evening. I will have the full interview up with Matt, so it's all good. It'll be on geeknewsnow.net. Go check it out there. And in fact, there was there's a review of the entire Fan Expo up on geeknewsnow.net at this point. So anyway, yes, Stephanie, I completely agree with you. Season 2 with Qui-Gon Jinn. He needs a more active role. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure about, like we said, it's a rumor. I mean, if it doesn't happen, I am completely happy with how this ended, because to me it was pretty close to perfection. The whole season had its ups and downs, but the last 2 episodes, chef's kiss. That was just awesome.
And I think this really boils down to and Kevin, you had mentioned something about this too, about how this final episode kind of said, okay, I got all of my boxes checked within the, I was happy with this final episode. And a lot of people have been very excited about this final episode too. This has been one of the most well-reviewed episodes of this series. But I'm looking at it too, to where it was like, you know what? You knew this was coming, and now can you look at the entire series as a whole versus just looking at, I didn't like that episode. Well, okay, that's fine. You didn't like that episode. There are parts of all of the movies to where I don't like, and it's like, okay, I can get up and go to the bathroom during this scene. I can get up and go make me some popcorn during this scene, and I'm not going to miss anything just because there's something I don't like. So again, this is one of those things to where I look at it as, okay, now that the whole thing is out, now everybody can make your judgment calls. Now everybody make it. How was it? That's just my thought. Cam, I know you had mentioned something about a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the series as a whole, it was very hit or miss with me. So some things I thought were really effective, and some things I just could not connect with. And I found it really hard to be engaged overall. Obviously, yeah, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is just a treasure. I mean, it's impossible not to love that. Hayden coming back as Darth Vader, I thought was really effective and really well done. I thought his presence within the series was very well utilized. But I don't know. I just could have done with a lot more character drama. I felt like, especially with episodes 3 and 4, it felt like it was all character and no drama. And I don't know. After a while, I found it really hard to get invested, and so it kind of softened the blow of the finale for me. I came out of the series feeling honestly kind of underwhelmed. And obviously, people disagree with that, and a lot of people really love the series, and that's
I don't know if you can see us, but Debbie is just completely agreeing with
yeah.
everything you've
Oh
said.
no, I can see you. Yeah, and
this morning, Cam, I don't know if it was this morning or if it was yesterday morning, but I couldn't tell you what Facebook page it was on, but they were asking to rate the season finale, and you gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I about had a heart attack.
Damn.
I was like,
Well,
"Are you
that's-
flipping
You know what?
serious?"
You know
that
what?
was my honest opinion of the series.
I will do.
No, I
everything-
thought they said for the finale.
Oh, for the finale, I mean, honestly, I don't remember exactly what was said. I mean, even if it was for the finale, it's still an honest rating, for at least for me.
Cam, you know what? I will sit there and defend you to the death about The Last Jedi, but I think with this, you and me might have to fight because
Oh,
I
just I just couldn't get over how, like, copy paste it felt. Like with the whole, slicing open the helmet to see the face. I was like, oh man, we've seen this already. And obviously, like
But
I
the
said,
Last Jedi had the same stuff. Copy paste, copy paste.
well, yes, I know that there's references and stuff to a lot of other things within Star Wars. I get that, but whenever it's like literally the same event happening, it's I don't know. Like I said earlier,
he needs to invest in some stronger helmets. I think.
I mean, like I said, I got to get used to being the dissenter in this because the series just didn't resonate with me like it did with other people, which I get it, but the main positive thing that I can say about this series is that retroactively they made the prequels better. So I can look at the prequels now and say, okay, well, this is happening because this is happening, or this is happening because that happened,
This
and
makes a lot more sense now.
yeah,
and I
well,
think it really connected with New Hope too. I mean,
right.
it just keeps the ball rolling.
Right, and just like the Brotherhood novel that came out not too long ago that I talked to you guys about before. I mean, just like that book made episode 2 better for me. This series has made the prequels better for me. It's just it didn't quite envelop me like it did other people.
Well, I can't say too much, Cam, because my oldest son, he has not liked this. Every weekend, it's a 3-hour text-a-thon of me and him arguing over this series.
And he's been on this show before, so we may have to have him back on and fight about things too.
Oh, Lord.
But you know what? Okay, so Chris is the host of MCU Mondays right here on Geek News Now. Go check it out on Mondays. We talk all MCU all the time. Debbie's co-host over there. But I think Chris has even said at some point that he hasn't been impressed with this series. Maybe you and I are just odd, Debbie. Maybe that's what it is. Kevin, what do you think? What do you think? We got our special
No. Because there are so many people on TikTok, even the ones that were criticizing, most of the series. When the last 2 episodes came out, boy, they flipped. Which I think kind of sucks because it's like a story arc, character development. You just can't have flashbacks and Clone Wars live action all the time. Good question.
Yeah. What do you wish you saw, Cam?
Oh, boy.
Stephanie.
Jeez. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to let myself go off on some serious rants or anything, because like I said, I did like this series.
Do it.
Well, one of the main things that I wish had been changed about it was the formula of the gruff old father character having to watch over the young character who's more important than they realize. We saw that in The Mandalorian. We saw that in Bad Batch. I mean, we saw that in Logan, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's a formula that feels really tired at this point. And if I wanted Kenobi to have a more personal call to action rather than just somebody asking for his help. I mean, granted, yeah, Leia is an important person in the events that are to follow, but at the same time, who is Leia to him? Now, granted, I understand that this episode is that this series has set up how Leia knows Kenobi when A New Hope comes around. But it's like I said, I just wish that had been presented in a different way. The whole father figure watching over the younger person. It's just it's a trope that I'm getting tired of seeing. And as far,
Well,
I mean,
there's just no
that
pleasing
there's
you. Then there's there.
there is though. I mean that there's plenty of other Star Wars stories that I've come across that I truly adore. Many that have come out recently and that don't follow that formula. And now I understand how effective that idea can be, but we've seen it so often in recent years that it just doesn't it doesn't impact me anymore. I want something new. I want something original. And this series didn't give me anything new or original.
Which is why I think they need to do a Crimson Dawn series with Maul and Kira, and maybe we'll get this in Acolyte. I'm not sure because I keep forgetting to look up what it's. I think it's supposed to take place 200 years before the Skywalker saga. So
It would be
maybe
is it during the time of the High Republic?
Yeah, it
towards
is.
the end of it, I think, towards the end of the High Republic. But I want them to go way back. I'm talking where a whole Sith show, nothing but Sith. That's what I want to see.
It's just going to be an old Sith watching over a young Sith. You just wait.
We could call it a cup full of Sith.
Before the rule of two came about, way before Bane, that's
darker by the dozen.
I would just like to see a lot of maybe not even backstories because, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think they need to get away, and I know they've been trying to do it, get away from the Skywalker saga and come up with just something totally different. And which is what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Cam, but with the sequel trilogy, my thought was, they had the three main characters, but they were phasing them out, bringing in these other characters, new characters to carry on a different saga.
Right.
And then it just got, nobody wanted it. Nobody liked it. But yet you're complaining you want to get away from this Skywalker saga.
What do you mean What do you mean I'm complaining about wanting to get away from the Skywalker saga? I do.
People in general.
Oh, I gotcha.
Not you. I'm sorry.
Not you specifically.
To be fair, I feel like a lot of the hate that sprouted from that was the fact that they were getting away from the Skywalker saga. That's why this series and the stuff around it is so popular, is because people want to remain in that within the time frame of those events. I feel like setting the sequel trilogy so far apart as far as the timeline goes from the original trilogy, I feel like was too jarring for some people to really wrap their minds around, which I totally get. I'm not saying that like a lot of these people are unfounded in their dislike for it. I mean, you guys know how I feel about it. I love The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. Wasn't really a fan of Rise of Skywalker because of how they backtracked on what they were setting up. So, I mean, it's really all about having to choose the lesser of two evils. Do you move away from what people love and have them hate you for it, or do you continue with what people love and have them, praise you until the trumpets sound? I mean,
I think Disney is in a catch-22. No matter what they do, even though it's not really Disney. I mean, they produce, they distribute, they throw the money at Lucasfilm, but it's like, damned if they do, damned if they don't, because you got groups of people, where, they want to stay within the Skywalker saga, and then you got the other groups that are like, let's get away from it.
I think
so.
Right.
They're gonna be screwed no matter which way they grow.
And you don't want to get me started when it comes to the sequel trilogy, because I would disagree with what you're saying. If you're talking about Last Jedi as far as being a good movie, I'm gonna pass on that and move on to something else.
Big surprise. There's another one.
But
I can't say that really comes as a shock to me.
Yeah, and I would go on and say that, when it comes to the shows that we've gotten though on Disney Plus, I mean, what you were just saying about there's no pleasing. I mean, there's a vocal group that's going to be on every side and every angle. For me, I'm a lot more philosophical when it comes to Star Wars. I look at it as, um, you know, eh, there's Star Wars is not about being a tightly written script necessarily. That's not really what it's about. It's more of a thing where it's a fantasy, and it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always felt a lot of that is how people actually interpret it is how much they're going to enjoy it. For me with Obi-Wan, I was able to take Riva's journey and basically turn it into it's a simple Sith story. I mean, she was an abandoned, fearful child. She was angry as an adult. The fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, the whole thing. So she got to that point where she didn't want that anymore, and she was able to snap out of it. So that's just something that for me, that's kind of a philosophy that runs through almost all of Star Wars. And when you get outside of some of what Star Wars is, in my opinion, is just it's that ability to be able to take what is there and I guess personalize it and make it your own. And I've always done that with pretty much anything. And with Kenobi, I felt that if it didn't resonate with you, in a lot of ways, it's a matter of your own personal interpretation.
Right. Well, see. Here's the thing: that the way that all these stories that are confined within one small time period are coming out, it's no longer leaving anything to interpretation. Because now, I mean, like they're talking
Defining
about like
things more.
because now they're talking about we're gonna get something about Ahsoka's childhood. Like we don't need that. We don't need to see Ahsoka's childhood. Leave something about this character to the imagination. I don't need to know about why Obi-Wan told Luke about Vader the way that he did. I mean, granted it was effective the way that they did it, but it wasn't something I needed to know. Like I said, I understand that people don't like that some people don't like The Last Jedi. I get that, but one of the main draws of that film for me is the fact that they were taking the story in a way that Star Wars hadn't been taken before, and when Rise of Skywalker came out, they backtracked on that and said, okay, well, you know what, people didn't like what we did before, so now we're just gonna connect all these dots in a way that feels familiar. Well, I'm the kind of person who, whenever I'm growing with this long running franchise, I don't want familiar. I want new. I want fresh. I want something to make me see this universe in a new way. And things like Kenobi and things like Bad Batch and even Book of Boba Fett, it's not giving me that. It's just it feels like they're treading over the same old territory over and over again. And while people are going to see it differently than me, I totally understand, and people have their own reasons for that, which is cool. I'm always down to debate these things. It's just I need more, and Star Wars isn't giving me that.
I mean, I'm not giving Kenobi 10 out of 10, so don't take me wrong to think that I'm
Sure.
saying that it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Oh, absolutely.
There was definitely some parts of it were pretty questionable, and there's some scenes that were things that you kind of cringe at a little bit here and there. But at the same time, I think when you look at the show as a whole, whether it's checking boxes, which I've seen people talk about a lot of, all it does is just check boxes. Well, yeah, maybe that is part of what's going on, but at the same time, it is also kind of giving you a little bit more to see when it comes to some of these characters, and people want these characters. I mean, who didn't want to see more Ewan McGregor? I mean, I don't know of anybody that didn't want that. Now, where were you going to take that if you weren't going to do this? What were you going to do? Just have him sit on Tatooine the whole time? I mean, it's hard to say.
I kind of asked my son that same question, kind of like what my daughter asked Cam. What were you looking for in this series? And from what he described, I mean, he was saying, fighting the Tuscans, still traumatized, still going through the PTSD stuff. And, but, protecting Luke. And to me, it sounded like the Kenobi book. I think that's what he wanted, was the Kenobi book. Yeah. Granted, that was a good book.
And I think
it's a good book, but I'm just like,
I think too that's why a lot of people have issue with the sequel trilogies, because there was so much legends built up to it, and that's what people wanted. They wanted the Legends story, and Disney said, "We're not doing the Legends, what expanded universe Legends, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to do that. We're going to take this in our own way, and we're going to make something new." And
they are taking elements.
And they take elements from it, and that's that's fine. They worked it in. I mean, look, hey, we got your expanded universe right here. It's, but I think too that you had talked about the backlash from the fans. I think if Disney Plus were to make a cartoon, it was a Disney Plus cartoon, and it was called Star Wars Legends, and each episode was part of one of the novels. So you had like 3 episodes that were Heir to the Empire, you had 3 episodes that were Dark Forces Rising, 3 episodes that were The Last Command. So you had nine total episodes, and it covered Zahn's entire trilogy. You took the words and made your script word for word from the book, and you made it animated, and you did everything exactly, every action that they take in the book, they take in the movie. You would still have people going, well, that's not Star Wars. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That's just not the way it is. And it's like, this is copied word for word. How is this not good? How do you know?
And I was talking to somebody about that today. What we were talking about, how the old EU versus the current canon. And I truly think that they chose the lesser of two evils by, not disregarding the EU, obviously, because they're borrowing elements from it. But if they just went the route of doing, book to film adaptations, they get ripped apart just as much as they are now. I mean, if not more, because people are going to say, "Oh, well, this wasn't in the book, or you didn't include this from the book, or this isn't the casting I would have chosen for this character, or something." With a franchise with a franchise that has fans that are as rabid as Star Wars, it's I mean that's an inevitability. It doesn't matter what risks you take. It doesn't matter how safe you play it. There's always going to be those people who just can't be happy with it. And I don't want to try and sound like I'm one of those people, because like I said, I've loved a lot of things about Star Wars since the franchise switched hands. I just want different things.
I was a big EU guy. So I was very much in favor of that. And when somebody talks about, well, should they have done the novels? I always look at things like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I mean, they followed the books pretty well, and they did decent. They didn't follow the books pretty well.
Not Lord
I don't
of the
think
Rings.
Lord of the Rings did.
Lord of the Rings.
Well, they certainly mixed things around in the books of Lord of the Rings. I mean, they didn't go in the same order necessarily.
They didn't go
Where is Tom Bombadil?
They did it in a filmable order. But I mean,
they let, when you change Faramir, when you change the course of an entire character, now you're changing the story. That's all I'm going to say. Go back and read the Two Towers, and then go back and watch the Two Towers movie, and you're going to be like, wow.
I mean, I look at some of that, though.
One of the
not that we want to talk about Lord of the Rings the whole time, but I think there's some of that. I mean, you had to do some, there had to be some of that. I mean, there's always going to be some of that, but
and that's where in my opinion, one of the greatest lines in movie history comes from, is when you had Sam and Frodo in Osgiliath and the dragon thing's there, and it's coming up in front of him, and Sam pulls Frodo aside, and he says, "By all accounts, Mr. Frodo, we shouldn't even be here." And it's like, no, you shouldn't, because that didn't happen in the book. You didn't go there. So you're absolutely right, Sam. You shouldn't be there. Anyway, that's my soapbox, my rant. There you go. I'm done.
Well, the thing is, the Marvel fans are the same way. You got I haven't read the comic books. I only read the ones for the Marvel show that, seems to be hitting these certain comics. I'll read those and then try to come up with some crazy theory. But for the most part, the people who are devoted Marvel comic fans, they get upset with the movies or the TV, especially with the TV
That's not the way
shows.
it happened in the cartoon.
I was like,
Good night,
It doesn't
Grant.
have to. Night, Grant. But yeah, I mean, and then you got your other Marvel fans who are upset because why are they making this the MCU? And I'm like,
I
hello?
haven't heard that before.
Can you hear my eyes roll back in my head?
I mean, there are comic book female superheroes. I mean, Lady Thor, hello.
Yeah.
Give me
yeah.
Squirrel Girl.
It's no, God, no, bad Tam. That's a bad Tam.
And I don't know if those fans have never read the comics, so they don't know that there's actual female.
That literally Thor was a woman.
You know, so
literally.
I mean, in
And
the
that brings
comics,
us- that
Thanos
brings
went
us
on his
back to
rampage
Obi-Wan,
because of a
too.
woman.
Yeah,
But-
Thanos was. Oh, go ahead.
I'm
We're
just
not on
saying that
MCU Mondays.
every fandom has it, and it gets to be depressing sometimes because especially when my own freaking son, you know, I mean, I grew up on Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I live and breathe Star Wars. It's my heart and soul. And then when I hear some of the stuff coming out of his mouth, you know, you're just a Disney lover, blah, 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 or some to that fact, you know, you're just playing,
I can't
you know,
stand that.
And I'm just like-
my eyes rolled again.
yeah, you know, I'm just like, who are you and what have you done with my son?
Yeah, I mean, that's always what sets it apart is, you know, people can disagree on, you know, on things within a franchise that they like. It's just how those disagreements are presented. You know, like here, I can talk to you guys. I could talk to Kevin and say, hey, I'm a huge fan of The Last Jedi, and here's why. And you guys can come and say, okay, well, you know,
Yeah,
I
I'll
hear what you're
disagree with
saying.
you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean that's
I'm not.
I mean that's cool. Disagreement's fine. I just want everybody to be civil about it. And we know, unfortunately, with social media, that's kind of, you know, not the case. You know, because it's a lot easier to type this stuff is garbage rather than, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of it, and here's my 10 reasons why.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with a lot of these toxic fans is the internet. Because back in the day, you know, the dark times, as we refer to it, you know, there was no internet except for maybe AOL chat rooms.
Oh,
which
They were
dial up.
called,
I miss
yes,
that.
It was the
AOL
user-
Instant Man.
It was the
Messenger.
user groups in the early 90s. Yes, that's where the Gonk Wars started.
I mean, there was nothing ever bad said. I mean, it was we were just clamoring for anything that, you know, whether it was comics, even though I didn't read the comics, but when they started coming out with the EU books, you know, I mean, we were just eating that shit up. And even though the EU has its issues because, you know, there are some books that kind of contradict other books and I don't know what happened. Somebody didn't get their shit together. But even with that, we didn't complain. We, you know, it was just like, you know, we want more. We want more.
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, once the prequels came out and people realized that they had internet access, the first thing they wanted to do was hop on and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, I don't like this."
Yeah.
That the one thing that I'm really glad they did this series, because I was talking to my daughter about it earlier, is that, and God damn it, I'm going to tear up again. But
No
how
crying.
I know, but Hayden is getting the respect he should have gotten back in the day.
We lost you for a minute there.
And I love that the fans are loving him now. And that just makes me want to cry because I'm just like, he got so much hate and oh gosh. I mean, well, him and Jake Lloyd both. And I wish there was some way that Jake Lloyd could come back and do something.
We needed a
and
Jake Lloyd cameo in this. That's what we needed.
But you know, I wish there would be some kind of redemption for him to.
We got to get Jake Lloyd on the show.
We should.
But I love that you know, people, you know, are appreciating Hayden because I love that man to death. I love him in other movies, so yeah.
Well, we are over an hour at this point. But Debbie, is there anything else in your notes that we have missed, or have we covered everything?
The only thing we haven't, well, I don't think we've said, but Obi-Wan's talk with Leia. That made me cry so hard because he was talking about
Padme
and Anakin and telling her what she's gotten from both of her parents, the qualities and the gifts. And yeah, that was a tearjerker. And then they started playing Leia's theme, and then I totally lost it after that. I was just like,
okay, I'm done. Can't watch this anymore.
Yeah, because I always watch it before I go to work. I was a mess when I was at work. People are like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I just watched Kenobi."
No, it was so sad.
But that speech, yeah, that was just so good. And then when he told her, well, she asked, will I ever see you again? And he also got his humor back too. He actually laughed.
Well, he's not dejected and despondent anymore.
I know, but it was just good to see him laugh and kind of joke around with her. Well, if you ever need a tired old man, you know where to find me. That was so good.
Shameless plugs. Everybody got shameless plugs?
MCU Mondays.
Actually, Debbie, talk about MCU Mondays for 1 minute. I got to go grab something real quick. It's a big surprise. Hold on. Go ahead and talk about MCU Mondays.
All right. This week we'll be talking about episode 3 of Miss Marvel, which had some pretty good stuff going on in it. One I didn't even notice until I rewatched it again. I was like, oh, connection. So if you want to know what that connection is, Monday night, same channel, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. I always want to say Pacific time for some reason.
Pacific, we don't know. You're on your own. You do need to figure it out.
That would be 6 hours.
I don't know. It's weird.
Behind us, I think.
Cam, shameless plug.
Well, new Cam and Focus is coming out at the end of the month, as always. And this time around, I am fulfilling my promise of, since the channel finally hit 1,700 subscribers, I promised people that I was going to watch and rage over an awful movie. I got a lot of suggestions from people. It's on one of my posts that I posted, I think a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a surprise. It's definitely going to be a surprise. I've been scouring the deepest dredges of the internet and IMDb for what I think is going to be a really hilarious movie to watch. So
it's not The Room, is it?
No, it's not The Room. That movie's been done to death.
Thank you.
And while that movie is, just a joy to watch,
no, it's not.
Oh, but it is.
No, it's not. A little piece of me dies every time that I see it.
Everybody betray me. I'm fed up with this world.
Oh, hey, Matt. How are you? What?
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Chewie says hi.
Hi, Chewie.
Hi, Chewie.
Kevin, you got your mic's off. Can't hear you. I got nothing.
Sign language.
Kevin is having
paper. Write on a piece of paper.
Kevin is having difficulty.
Cue tense hacker music.
Okay. Okay. So while Kevin is figuring out his mic, I will show you this. Next week on this show, we are going to be doing a giveaway. I got this lovely print at
nice
at Fan Expo. It is autographed by the artist. Joe Coker is his name. Very cool, very awesome print. I'll even send it in this little plastic thing so it stays nice, and I don't know how I'm going to ship it, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, Joe Coker, he was there. I got to talk to him for a little bit. It was awesome. going to be giving this away next week, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to give it away. I'm still working out the details, but keep your eyes open on the Facebook page. Keep your eyes open here at Geek News Now, and I'll have details for you.
Awesome.
So, very cool, exciting.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Yay.
Okay. I figured it out.
Cool.
So I do want to just jump in the middle of something there.
Okay.
I don't have anything to plug. I was just happy to get a chance to chat with you guys. I know that I'm active online in a lot of different places. Just get a chance to talk Star Wars, and I do some Marvel stuff too with different people. But yeah, it's just cool to get a chance to see what other people think of things and get a chance to be on your show. I appreciate it. It was really nice.
Cool.
Always
Yeah,
welcome
good to have you.
back.
Always. And
If you want to be on Marvel,
Yeah.
contact Chris.
Chris is, but Kevin is part of our GNN Greats Facebook page. Go over there and check that out. And like I said, if you want to be on the show, just hit me up. I'm easy. Whatever. I'll find a spot for you. Don't worry about it. Next week this week was a lot of people wanted in. So, but next week's we'll figure that out. Other than that, I've been David, and this has been the Cantina Happy Hour. We will see you guys all next week, next Thursday at the same time, same channel, 8:30 p.m. And may the force be with you all.